But having said that, and looking at how to control the spread, some of the measures that have been given, I believe, are incomplete if you don't facilitate or assist people to achieve them. For example, an order has been given for all schools to close, all institutions of learning to close. That's a good initiative to stop congregating of people, because if one of them is infected, very quickly can infect very many. But if you want those who are in schools to leave schools and go home, it's also important that they don't do so in a panic way, to move at a go, because then that mass movement of people can in itself cause a problem. So I would advise that even as our children are going back home, they should be phased. Maybe they should start with one class goes home today, another class goes home tomorrow, another class goes home the other day. That will help reduce the scramble of people as they try to leave and go all at the same time. Secondly, it's important that when we talk about people washing their hands, we facilitate them to do so. We are taking water for granted, that it's available to people, clean water. But clean water in these towns and places where we live can be very difficult to come by because it's costly. I would therefore, in that regard, recommend that steps be taken to make it easy for those who need inputs to keep them safe to get those inputs. The role of government is to make sure that all people are covered. Government has the role of balancing the boat of the country so that those who are deprived, their deprivation can be reduced. Those who are very well off, help to cover those who are deprived. So I think it is very important that water, domestic water supply during this time is not restricted. That the national water, fortunately, national water is still a public body, that national water does not turn off people who have not paid for water. That national water does not send bills at this time for people to get water, so that water is freely and readily available to all Ugandans. That is extremely important. It's not enough to say people should wash when it is very difficult to get clean water. Similarly, I think power should not be turned off from our people at this time. Again, government can and should put in place measures to make sure that domestic power remains available, so that water can be boiled, so that there can be cleaning of places and maintenance of homes in hygienic conditions. Thirdly, we are talking about people having soap, to wash with soap. But our people are hurting. Those who can afford soap are few. It's therefore important that measures are quickly put in place to the extent possible to make soap accessible to our people. And this is what I would recommend, that until this crisis is out, taxation on soap is abolished so that we can get soap at the lowest price that is possible. Secondly, where people have to go and where they need to wash with soap, we should not expect that our poor people are going to provide that soap to the extent that is needed in the places where it is needed. It's one thing to say people going to the market should use disinfectant before they enter the markets or whatever, but who will provide that disinfectant? Because if you just leave it to the markets to do so, the next thing is we are going to have people just supply water or supply some substandard material to fulfill just the requirement. If you come inspecting, you see some people washing, when in actual fact, they are not being protected. So I think it is important that for public places that have to remain open and where many people go, the state must pick up the bill and get the appropriately tested materials to be applied in those areas in the quantities needed for our people to maintain the necessary hygiene in those places. Similarly, taxes on disinfectants should be abolished for the time of the pandemic. And there are several useful disinfectants like Jik. Jik is a very good disinfectant that can be used and has been used over time to protect people. And it's readily available, but it's not affordable. So disinfectants should equally attract no taxes at all. Now, one of the things that is difficult to control in the spread of this virus is money. Uganda is a cash economy. You, in a short time, will handle paper notes that have come from a landing site somewhere on Lake Victoria that came with a fisherman who gave the paper to a market man. Market man brings it to the shop. The shop brings it. In a short time, money changes many, many hands. I think measures to reduce the use of money will be helpful during this time. To that extent, it would be wise and recommendable that we make it easy for people not to use paper money. So the cost on using maybe cards to pay should be adjusted, removed, so that people can pay, those who are able to pay with cards can pay with cards. But secondly, mobile money should attract no tax during the crisis, so that people can transact and use mobile money without fear of losing the value that they are transacting with. In the same vein, if we don't want people to congregate, to get together, we should make their communication easy. So, let's, for the duration of the pandemic, scrap tax on internet. The OTT should go so that people can more easily and cheaply communicate rather than looking for each other to talk physically. These are some of the measures that I consider, on top of what has already been communicated, will help in minimizing the spread of the virus.